So hello everyone, in this video we are going to create the Coverflow slider. You could see, and you can obviously play around with its how much rotation it is, how much depth it is and all. And these are very customizable sliders. And if you have watched my previous video, you would know that we created the base swiper, which is the base slider. You could see we created the vertical slider. We created the autoplay slider with just this options. We created the cube slider. In this video, we will create the Coverflow slider. Then in future, the flip slider, the card slider, the creative slider. This one is basically, it allows you to add your own customization, whichever one you want. So this one is like very versatile because you choose how the animation should happen. And then there's the thumb slider where we connect two sliders to each other. So even though these are basically two different sliders, you could see they are connected to each other. So which means that you can add any content in here. It doesn't have to be just an image. You could add anything in here. Okay. Then we will be making a curve slider, and the last one is going to be the panorama slider. One very important thing before I start, I actually created a video called custom base slider, and that is going to be the first video of this series. And that video is a lot bigger. It's 40 minutes plus, and that is an important video because I go into it in much more detail explaining every single part. But while I create the Coverflow one, I'm not going to do it for every single part, simply because if I do that, then this video would also turn to like 40 minutes plus, and I don't want to make each video 40 minutes plus. So just watch this video, make it, and then if you are trying to do some unique customization, then check the custom base slider and see if you can find something that can help you. Or you could just go into the time. I haven't uploaded it yet, but there would be, timestamp, so you could just check the part that you want, like if you just want to check the pagination and all that stuff. One more thing, I will be providing a free template that you could just get from my website. And after I uploaded every single slider, I will create a video which would explain how to use this template too. Then you could just watch that video where I'll explain how to just customize it. And please support me using the affiliate links, hosting your affiliate links, subscribing or buying products from my website. And consider liking, subscribing, sharing, and let's get started. Coverflow one would be available in description, which would have the code and all that stuff that is required. So you could say this is all the code. It's very basic. If you watch my previous any other video of sliders, then you would know how to create this layout. So I'm just going to go a bit faster this time. So first thing first, we need a main container, which is going to be our Coverflow swiper. And one thing, we are actually using SwiperJS library, which is this one. This is the same library that Elementor uses for its own carousel, like every single carousel. And the thing is, this carousel library is like very powerful. Elementor doesn't use every single thing of it. So I made this template so that you could use the other properties of swiper. But if you check the first video, you would understand like all the options that are available. And one more thing is that because it's Elementor, some stuff like some of the styling does not get added automatically, which is why I had to manually add it and basically force it to use it. Okay. So let's get started. So we just created a swiper. You could see the swiper, and inside of this there should be a wrapper. So let's call it swiper wrapper. Very important, they need to be full width. Okay. You could just copy this slider at anywhere and place it and then change the layout like size and all, but make sure it's a full width. Okay, around here. In the wrapper we will create the slides. So I'll call it like slide 1. Let's add a background image, or let's add a color, for a quicker video. And obviously you can add anything in here. Okay, it doesn't have to be just this text, anything that you want, whatever size you want. I'm going to duplicate these slides, you could see, and then I'm going to make the swiper wrapper go left to right. And one important thing is that you could see this is our swiper and then this is our wrapper. There's a gap in between. We don't want that, so go to advanced and do 0, so there's no gap between both of this. And in the swiper wrapper, you could see there's a gap in between the slides and all. We don't want this, and we don't want the gap in here too, because that is controlled by the code. So this is how it looks: 1 slide, 2 slide, 3 slide. And then make sure, this is very important, that you give it a height. So let's do like 350 or something. I'll just give some padding just for visual purposes. This is not important. Okay. Whenever you want to use this slider, you just need to copy this. So this is how it looks. Now the next thing is we can create our arrows and all in this swiper in the swiper container, or you could add it outside this. Okay, so it's your choice how you want to do it. I will add it outside, but it's your choice. Okay, if you want to use it inside, you would simply just type icon and add it inside the swiper wrapper. Not wrapper, sorry, Coverflow swiper, like this, or you could just place it outside too. So these are two positions that we are available with. Let's do left to right, and then we will create a pagination, which is going to be, if I show you guys, it's going to be this, but you could actually just have more options like this dots. You could see you could use this dots. If you don't want that, if you don't want any pagination, don't use that. And there's also another option called progress bar, which I'll explain how to make it in the first big video, or just go to the pagination part of the first big video and you will be able to make it. This one is going to be pagination, like this. So we got Coverflow and we got siblings like this. These are siblings, okay, you could see, and this is the child because this is the parent and it's inside, right? So it's child, and these are siblings. Those are just words that we could that I use commonly, so just letting you know. And then in the HTML we will add the code in this widget. You could make it hidden if you don't want it to take any space. Just make it hidden and the code would still run. Let's go down in the Coverflow page, and here we will have some CSS class that we need to use. So first of all is this DM Coverflow swiper. Copy it without the dot and paste it. Then we want to give other CSS class, which is wrapper class, slide class, next element, previous element, pagination element. So where we can find the CSS class for this one? In the code, if you go down, you will see these options. So DM Coverflow swiper wrapper is going to be our wrapper class or wrapper container. Our DM Coverflow slide is supposed to be for our slides. Let's copy this. I'll just delete the text one of them so that I can just duplicate and I'll have all the class there. Let's make the color be a bit different so that we can see it properly. Okay, so this bright pink color. Then for the left arrow, we will have DM Coverflow swiper previous without the dot. Okay, do not copy the dot. Let's do previous and do DM Coverflow next. Go in the icon and then do paste. Then we have DM Coverflow swiper pagination. Let's do copy and add it to the pagination container. After we have done all of this, we simply need to do copy, go to our HTML widget and paste it. Suddenly you could see it does not look the same, it looks a bit different. So let's do preview and see how it looks now. And you could see all of a sudden we can see it working. You see there is a shadow on here also. So, and you could see it's not looping properly, and the reason is we are showing 3 slides, but we only have 3 slides in here. Now to fix this, you could obviously add extra containers, but maybe if you only have 3 and you want to use 3, if that's your choice, then what you could do is you could just duplicate the first slide again, second slide again, third slide again. So you would have 6, but they would just be duplicated. So if I do, let's say 4 of them, if I do 4 of them, it should work properly. So let's give it, let's say, a bright green color, and let's do preview. And you could see now it works properly without having that glitchiness effect. And obviously you could add anything in here. Now, if you have watched the previous video, you would know how to customize a lot more, but I'll explain a bit faster this time. So first of all, if you want the this layout on here and all, you could obviously use position absolute and place it or whatever, this one too. But right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another container above here, and then I'm going to place all my icons inside of this icons, and then in the middle there would be pagination. You would see the pagination is up to down. We don't want that, we want it to be left to right. And then let's do left to right, let's do center, let's do bottom, like this, and then it would work properly where it would be left, right and all that. But let's do the other main important stuff first. So you can see we got this working, and maybe you want to have, you know, your icon should be like a hand. It looks a weird in here in my screen where you could see the grab cursor, but that's simply because I'm using this green cursor arrow for videos. But for you, it would basically be showing nicer white hand, which would not have this, like, I don't know, crushed hand option, crush hand design. So if you want to actually show, that hand icon, you could basically copy the CSS class of this one, go to HTML, go down in the styles tab where we can add CSS, type dot DM Coverflow swiper preview, open curly bracket, close curly bracket, type cursor pointer like this, and now you would see it would be a hand icon, but here you could see it's not working properly, but here it's working properly, but here it's not, because this one is called Coverflow swiper next. So let's go to our HTML widget, and you could create another one, but a faster way is to just add a comma to enter and add this with a dot, and that way both of this would have this option like this. Now let's learn about some of the customization that we can do. So let's add it in here, and I'll explain one by one. The option we have is this direction called horizontal, but I haven't tested it for vertical, so I don't know what it would look like. So you will need to do vertical, but you will also need to play around with the height and all code. So for now, I've only done for the horizontal, and the loop is set to true. So if you set this to false, it would not be looping, and when it reaches end, it would have no, it would not show the next one, and basically it would only be this many. Then we have grab cursor. Basically when I move my mouse over, it should look like a hand icon. I don't know why it's looking weird around here, but it looks proper around here. Then centered slides is set to true, and that is because in this version we want the centered slides to be true for the Coverflow effect to work. So if you watched the previous video, you would know what center slides are used, like for the base one and all, but for this one we have to keep it true. The effect is Coverflow, and these are the options that Coverflow has. We have rotate, stretch I don't understand, so I'm just going to not tell about it. Depth is how much far it is in the 3D space. Modify is just a way to multiply all of these previous values, and slide shadow is basically shadow of this. So let's play around with some values. Let's go into HTML and let's make the rotate be 20, and you could see how this looks now. It looks a bit different, the design is a bit different like this. If you make it 0, it also looks a pretty cool effect that I've seen. It's been used like so many times in other websites, and you could see this is how it looks if you do, let's say 0, and this is depth. So depth is basically how far it is. So if I do 200, it would be that much far from you. Think of it, the distance from you to that, like from the screen to the further from you basically. So you could see if I make it, let's say something massive, let's say like 1000, it would be like much more easier to see. You could see this is how it looks. So let's keep it properly right now. So let's keep it 100. And now if I do, let's say 20, but if I do modifier to be 3, then everything would be modified, like multiplied by 3 or 3 times basically. You can see everything is now multiplied by 3. So that is same as going modifier 1 and doing this 60 and doing this as 300. So you could see now this one would also look same. Did I do preview? Okay. You would see this one also looks the same. So let's keep the modifier to be 1. Let's keep this as 100. Let's keep this as 50. The slide shadow, I already told you that there's a slide shadow, like this shadow that is, it's kind of giving an effect of this slide is being above it and kind of creating the 3D effect. Next, if you go down, we have breakpoints. So this one basically tells us how much slide should be visible, and this is for desktop, this is for tablet, and this is for mobile. So you could see for mobile I've set it to be 1 because I only want to show 1. So if you go in here and then turn this to, let's say 2, it would be only that much. And I found that 2 looks weird, but I'll still show you. Like this is how it looks. Now you might think that, hey, I'm actually seeing 3, not actually, but because if you do like this, you would see that there's only 2. So the space is only for 2, but because it's a 3D and rotated, it looks like this. You could say it's only 2 spaces right now. If you do 1, it would look again different. You would see this is how it looks if you do 1. Now the thing is, I've set the space between. You could check in the code, the space between is basically the gap between both slides, but I've kept it 0. Then why is there space? Well, because we are using rotation and then we are also using depth. So because it's a perspective stuff where this slide is at the front and the curved slides, like this curved slide is behind, like 100 space behind, and you know that anything that is behind looks a bit smaller and a bit further. So when you rotate it, it actually looks like there's a space already. So we do not really need to add, space around here, but you could play around with its value. One thing I actually forgot to change in this code. So if you download the template, it would be also like that, but even in the code, the max width is set to 10%. For this one, like this pagination, you could see Coverflow pagination max width is 10. If you check the previous code, it would have something called fit content, which is better, like this. So fit content basically means that be the size of whatever the inside element is. Okay, play around with the value which works better, but fit content will automatically make it the size of this one. But if you want it to be 10%, or maybe you want it to be, let's say 50%, you would see that it's actually being 50% around here, this container. So fit content just works better and looks better. So change that code to be fit content. I think that's like way better. And if you like make this to be center, it would be in center. But yeah, fit content just works better. So let's just use that. I should have fixed the code, but again, I'm keeping it like this right now, fit content. Now how to change this pagination to be dotted style? Now to do that, you need to go into the base slider code, like this base slider block page. And by default, I have used the dotted one for this one. And you could see there's like double slash. So what double slash means is that don't use this forward, this front code, like don't use this and don't use this. This is just a way to like showcase that this is where the code needs to be added, nothing crazy. But if you check in our code, I haven't really done anything like that. If you go up, you'd see I've done like nothing like that in the pagination. I've already set it to be type fraction. So if you remove this, it will automatically start. Like if you remove this and then let's say paste it in here, it will automatically start using dots. But I've seen that sometimes it just does not, the dots are sometimes not visible, sometimes they are. So you could see right now they are not visible. So how can we make them visible? They are actually there, but they are just invisible. And that is because the CSS is not getting added. So if you go into the base slider, you would see one more thing. That is, I've added bullet class and bullet active class and clickable true in the pagination tab. But if you check in our code, the pagination is just this much. So what that does, what does this base code does? Well, bullet class is basically for, let me go up if I can find the previous ones. Bullet class is basically CSS class that is added to all these bullets. And then this DM base bullet active is only applied to the active one. So because we are giving custom bullet classes, we are able to customize it with CSS. And I had to do that because for some reason, sometimes it adds the CSS, sometimes it does not add the CSS. So if you use this, it just works perfectly. So let's copy this much, go to our code. In the pagination, make sure there's a comma around here, okay? Else it would not work, and paste it like this. So what would this do is wherever our pagination is, it would give this classes, but we know that our classes is invisible. So we need to give it the styling. So in our base swiper, if you go down, if you check this for bullet pagination, just copy this much, okay? So this is, you could see DM base bullet. So I'm basically giving this CSS and this is for the active. You could see DM base bullet active. So let's copy this much and add it at the end of our code. And suddenly it is visible. You could see for the spaces, you could just go into your pagination and then change the gap around here. But for the colors and all, it's basically you need to change the width and height to whatever you want. So that way it would be that much size of the dots. And if you want it to be, let's say, different shape, like capsule shape, rectangle shape, then make sure you remove the aspect ratio 1. What this does is that it forces it to be a square so that it looks like a perfect square or circle. Then background, you could add any hex value in here or your color. Then border radius is set to 100, that way it turns into a circle. So if you want it to be square, you could just make it 0, or if you want it to be like different shape, you could do that too. Then the opacity is set to 0.2. So if you check in here, you would see that the invisible ones have 0.2, or sorry, inactive one has the 0.2 by default, and then the active one has opacity 1. So if you want to have some other effect, you could basically copy, you know, background color in here, and then this one would be like red color for only the active one, or the border radius or anything. Just copy in here, and then you would be able to make the active dot be different, and anything that is inactive should be done here. You could also use ChatGPT, basically copy this in ChatGPT and tell that, hey, I want to do this and that, and it will basically give the CSS code. One more thing is, when we were using type fraction, I forgot to show you guys. When we were using the type fraction before, when we typed, you know, this one, type fraction, then you need to copy this code, okay? But instead of using DM base swiper pagination like this text, you will actually use the pagination that we have used. So you will copy this here and then paste it around here. So replace this, and then you could basically change the pagination or this number style to whatever you want around here. And it is also possible to change the color of the current number and the total number, so the left number and the right number. And just check this video, go into the pagination, and I've explained how to do that or what code to use. Same with the progress bar. You could see I already have a progress bar, but again the video would get like way too big. So you could check this progress bar too, where you just simply to type progress bar and then use CSS class like this, but change the pagination to our pagination name. You could also add autoplay by simply, if I could find it, by adding this much, like copy this code and go into after let's see, like after here you could add your autoplay and it will start doing autoplay. So yeah, that's all for the Coverflow. I don't think I've missed anything, but if you want any help, just message me via the contact form of my website, or just leave a comment and I'll try to help you as quick as possible. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Get the free template from here. Consider liking and subscribing or using the links to support me. Goodbye.